Hi everybody, I'm Ann, the youngest daughter. Oops, I better keep these on. Sorry, I can't see anything. Mine's kind of lengthy and I do tend to get a little weepy. I'm the crybaby of the family, so hopefully I can hold it together long enough to get through this. First of all, I want to thank all of you for being here to celebrate my parents' lives with us. Each and every one of you were special to my parents. They treasured their relationships with friends and colleagues alike. Secondly, I'd like to thank the Biomedical Library and the Department of Physiology for allowing us to use this wonderfully appropriate space and for assisting us greatly with many aspects of planning this event here. We truly appreciate you including our mom in this tribute as well. We had a small family gathering for her in April, but this is so much more fitting. Our dad, being as unselfish as he was, would not want anything more than to share this time with his wife of nearly 60 years. Excuse me. Moment. I want to thank Judy Gonzalez, Elaine Takahashi, Deborah Moorhead, and especially Russell Johnson for their tireless work in assuring that our celebration would go smoothly. Russell, you've been a wonderful advocate for our parents, both professionally and personally. You've been there for my father and so patient when he was so extremely focused on his medallic art collection, and he would call you several times a week. You've been there to carefully and meticulously transfer the complete collection, which took no less than 5 trips to my parents' house, over to its final resting place here in the library. You've been there to assist us in every aspect of this event, and most of all, you've been there as a great and true friend to both my mom and dad. What a blessing for my parents to have a person like you in their lives. From the bottom of my heart, a big thank you. Sorry. We'll get it together here. I'd like to begin with a little history of how my mom and dad met. Befittingly, their paths crossed here in 1951 on campus in the physiology department. My mother was one of the physiology department secretaries before my dad even arrived here at UCLA. Prior to his appearance here, my mom got a peek at his resume, and after reading about all his qualifications and accomplishments for someone at the young age of 28, she assumed that the gentleman soon to arrive would be quite the nerd, maybe short, balding, unattractive. But on the contrary, instead he showed up looking somewhat like a youthful version of Tony Curtis. And little did she know that he would be the man that she would spend the rest of her life with. They ended up dating and marrying the very next year. My parents were so appropriate for each other, both of them very intellectual and culturally inclined. They both loved traveling, living abroad for 3 separate years along with countless excursions over the years. Going through their items after they passed, I discovered no less than 34 photo albums of their trips alone. At home, they valued the same things, keeping a beautiful house with many collectibles, as you've heard, from their various places they visited, keeping a well-tended garden, many a day my mom on her knees carefully pulling the weeds out of the dichondra lawn, and keeping a schedule. Sunday was big day. We had pancakes, waffles, or eggs for breakfast, pot roast for dinner, and of course it was laundry day. Thursday was the coupon clipping and grocery shopping day. All the other days were filled with my mom transporting us to dance classes, music lessons, swimming lessons, and the like. I guess you could say there was a great balance between routine and stability, along with the wonderful experiences we were given while traveling and living abroad. The personal things I'll remember always about my mom include her need to be productive and creative at all times. If she wasn't working on her Sunday New York Times crossword puzzle, constantly asking for my dad's assistance, she was sewing, knitting, creating stained glass, gardening, decorating beautiful birthday cakes, clipping coupons, or shopping for any one of us family members. Another thing that defines her was that family meant everything to her. She loved to make sure we had everything we needed and more. She was very involved in our lives. Holidays were a special time for her, especially Christmas. Christmas for my mom started usually 3 months prior with shopping and fruitcake making. Soaking in brandy for 3 months actually makes a fruitcake tolerable. It does. And countless types of cookie baking to give to friends and family. It was her favorite holiday. One year, a particularly warm and sunny Christmas when we all wanted to go to the beach for a while, she was so eager for us to open presents that she threatened that the Christmas tree was leaning over so far it would fall and smash the presents. So we cut our beach day short in order to open all her beautifully wrapped gifts, and all was fine. My mom was my confidant. She was my rock. She was my biggest critic, but my biggest supporter as well. I miss her terribly. Memories of my dad are very tender. If we could not get to sleep at night, my dad was the one to come in and rub our backs or tell us a creative bedtime story about Tweety the bird, Willie the whale, or the little drop of water. My dad sat tirelessly with me every night, helping me as I struggled with my trigonometry homework. He loved to fiddle around with his little fix-it projects around the house. He enjoyed seeking out, catching, and studying spiders he would find. His curiosity of many things kept his mind sharp and his demeanor youthful. He had a cute sense of humor and was always kind and loving. He could be stern, and always both he and my mom expected the best from us. They set high standards. My dad was a family man through and through. No one could be a more dedicated father and husband. My dad was my advisor. He was my security. He was always candid, wise, and thoughtful. I miss him terribly. The last few years of my parents' lives, they required help from several wonderful women, Mona, Amy, Yolanda, and Rosalina, who specifically has known them and worked for them for nearly 30 years. All these ladies showed such devotion, care, and love towards my parents. They allowed them their dignity, even as my parents relied on these ladies' help more and more. Their companionship, especially with my father after my mom passed, was invaluable. My dad's last 5 months of life were greatly enriched by their company, and once again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. In these last few years, I also grew even closer to them than before, as I became so involved in their care. As they started to unravel, my dad's favorite phrase for the process and side effects of aging, our roles began to reverse. Rather than asking them for advice, my brother, sister, and I were left to make decisions for both of them and ourselves on our own. Rather than my parents taking care of me, I became their caregiver. I suppose this is nature's way of really setting you free to become a full-fledged adult. I've always been a late bloomer, and the loss of both my mom and dad this year has forced me to grow up. I guess it doesn't really matter how old you are when you lose your parents, you still feel like an orphan. I thank my brother, my sister, my husband, and children for helping me through this sorrowful time. They've all been there for me in so many ways. They help cheer me up, commiserate with me, and fill me with joy that life still goes on. I see my mom's strength, fortitude, and self-confidence in my daughter, Mia. I see my dad's intellect, curiosity, and sweet gentleness in my son, Kian. I know that all the grandchildren were such a source of gratification and pride for my parents. I hope that our whole family carries on the values that my parents instilled in us of integrity, tolerance, and kindness. I want to close with saying that this event would be exactly the type of event my parents would love to attend. I like to think they are both here in spirit with us today. They took such pleasure in socializing with their friends, especially here at UCLA. First off, they would have been so happy to receive an invitation in their ever-important mail, which they would spend hours going through each and every day. They would have marked this event on their Bible, the calendar, hanging on the side of the refrigerator. My mom would have planned days in advance what she would wear, and probably what my dad would wear too. My dad would have RSVP'd possibly several times just to make sure they'd done it. They would have left the house with time to spare just in case there was traffic. They would have arrived and parked after much backseat driving from my mom. As they would enter, they would be in their element, milling around with all their friends here. My mom would be constantly interrupting my dad. My dad would be getting annoyed and frustrated, but would of course eventually laugh it off, being the good-natured man that he was. They would stay till it was time to go back home, drive back very safely. My dad always drove exactly the speed limit, not a mile faster or slower, and would arrive home to their bedtime routine, going to sleep with smiles on their faces and happiness in their hearts. Thanks to all of you for this happiness you have all provided them over the years, and much gratitude for being here today to celebrate their lives. Thank you.